Mr. Lundgren.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I've been working on this issue for some 30 years. I confess that I was the Republican floor manager for the Simpson-Mazzoli bill. I thought at that time we had presented a reasonable solution to the problem of illegal immigration in this country. Unfortunately, while the legalization program, which was supposed to be a one-time only program, was successful, there was a total failure with respect to enforcement. We also included in that law the SAW-RAW program, Seasonal Agricultural Worker Program, and Replenishment Agricultural Worker Program, both of which were riddled with fraud, which some of us suggested would happen when we opposed that section of the bill. Since that time, and because of the lack of enforcement by the federal government, we have seen a continuation of the flow of illegal immigration into this country, so that it is of a larger dimension than it was back in the 1980s. At the same time, we have the highest rate of unemployment, I believe, in my adult lifetime. And in my district, we have a higher unemployment rate than the state of California, which has a higher unemployment rate than all but 2 states. It is a severe problem. I have agriculture in my district, and I have urban areas in my district. It seems to me that we ought to be we ought to put all the facts on the table and understand that there are different segments of our economy, most of which, in my opinion, can successfully attract American workers. I see no reason right now for the presumed or the assumed lack of opportunity for African-American young males in the construction trades. I see no evidence whatsoever that in the area of construction or landscaping, there's a need for foreign workers. I think the intelligent thing for us to do is to establish laws which would allow us to look economic sector by economic sector and make a determination through our government as to whether or not there is a need for foreign workers. Now, I've never worked in the fields. I've worked on ranches, I've worked in construction, I've worked in shipyards. That's all tough work. I doubt it is as tough as the work I have seen the individuals in the farm fields do. It is really tough work. Being from California, I happen to believe there is evidence that we cannot attract sufficient Americans for agriculture purposes. And therefore, I have always suggested we have to establish a program that works and that the American people determine through their elected officials the contours of, and then on an annual basis we make a determination as to how many people are needed in this country. But I'm sorry my friend Mr. Berman has left, because one of the problems with his Ag Jobs bill is that it grants people the path to citizenship who have been in this country illegally as a major tenet of this program. I don't think that is necessary. And the reason I say that is this: there is an essential notion in our society, I believe, from the time we're on schoolyards and even before that, that cutting in line is unfair. And I have to ask the number of people from the sending countries who followed the law and did not come into this country illegal, but which wish to come to this country, what does it say to them that they get put behind those that were not following the law? So all I would say is this: I think we can reach a satisfactory conclusion to this if we recognize that enforcement in the past was not there and therefore encouraged continuing illegal immigration, a failure to have a workable temporary worker program has caused some of the problem that we have. And I think thirdly, that you do not have to have an amnesty component in a program. There are other ways we can treat people humanely and deal with this problem without that, because I fear, Madam Chair, that if we have that as a component of any legislation we have, the American people will not support it, and we will fail to deal with a real challenge that we have confronting us today. Among all the issues that we have, we always see that we also have the backdrop of the threat of terrorism today. And I am not and never have suggested that most people who are here illegally are terrorists or that there's a large number of it. All I say is if the longer you have a porous border, the greater opportunity you have for terrorists to take advantage of that. And that is something that we did not have to deal with as we do today. We did not have to deal with in 1984-86 when we were dealing in the Simpson-Mazzoli legislation. So, Madam Chair, I thank you. I'm actually going to thank Mr. Colbert for bringing the attention to the question of workers in the field. It's always tough to say anything to him because you're not sure what's going to happen in return and what will appear on TV. And I know he would never take anything out of context. So that I guess I might as well quit while I'm ahead.
Thank you, and your time has expired. I would like to introduce the panel of witnesses before us, and I will start by introducing Dr. Carol M. Swain. Professor Swain is currently a professor of political science and professor of law at Vanderbilt University and a member of the James Madison Society at Princeton University. She received her bachelor's degree from Roanoke College and her master's from Virginia Polytechnical Institute and State University. She holds a PhD from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and in 2000 she was awarded an MLS from Yale Law School. She specializes in race relations and immigration and is the author of several books, including her most recent, Debating Immigration, a collection of essays by Professor Swain and other scholars on contemporary immigration. Next, I would like to introduce Phil Glaze. Mr. Glaze is a third-generation fruit grower, former chairman of the U.S. Apple Association, a nonprofit membership association serving the interests of the entire American apple industry, and an active member of the Agriculture Coalition for Immigration Reform. U.S. Apple represents a $2 billion industry with over 7,500 commercial growers nationwide. Mr. Glaze's family business grows, packs, and ships apples for the fresh and processed markets and has been producing apples in Shenandoah and Frederick counties, Virginia, since the 1920s. It is my pleasure to introduce our third witness, Arturo Rodriguez. Since 1993, Mr. Rodriguez has served as the president of the United Farm Workers, the largest farm workers union in the United States, founded by Cesar Chavez. A veteran farm labor organizer, he became active with the UFW's Great Boycott as a student in 1969. He holds a master's degree in social work from the University of Michigan and has worked for the UFW since 1973. Mr. Rodriguez has over 35 years of experience organizing farm workers, negotiating union contracts, and leading farm workers across the country for fair wages and working conditions. And finally, it is my pleasure to introduce Stephen Colbert. Mr. Colbert is the host and executive producer of the Emmy Award and Peabody Award-winning series on Comedy Central, The Colbert Report. The series won the Peabody Award for Excellence in Broadcasting in 2008 and has garnered a total of 15 Emmy nominations. Mr. Colbert and his writing team have won 2 Emmys for outstanding writing for a variety music or comedy program. He recently traveled to an upstate New York vegetable farm to experience the life of a farm worker through the United Farm Workers Take Our Job initiative, and he has also worked with the farm workers to try and publicize their Take Our Jobs Please campaign in the effort to highlight the shortage that we face. Now, each of you has prepared a written statement, and that statement, those written statements, will be made part of our official record. At this point, we would like you to summarize your statement in about 5 minutes. There are little machines on the table. You can see right now they're green. When 4 minutes is up, they'll turn yellow, and when 5 minutes is up, it'll be read. And at that point, we would like you to conclude, not mid-sentence, but sum up, and so that all of the witnesses can be heard, and also so members of the committee will have an opportunity to ask their questions. So first, we will go to you, Dr. Swain, for your testimony.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to testify on this important issue. I speak today on behalf of millions of Americans who would like to see immigration laws vigorously enforced.